So declare that carried. Thank you to our wonderful planning staff. Now we go to item 12. We'll hear from Tony Reedy. Is Tony? Yep, Tony's here. Members, this is on page 113 of your agenda. Now this is an open space plan change, and we're looking at approving that and other rezoning matters. It's changes in zoning. It's to account for some acquisitions, disposals, and some errors, isn't it, Tony? So, Tony, we've read your report starting at page 113. There's an appendix there that I think we've gone through as well. Tony, what have you got to add?
I'm sorry, there's one issue that has arisen just prior to or just after the agenda going out, which I want to discuss. And also to update the committee on the feedback we received from local boards in iwi, which I referred to in the report, but we hadn't received it in time for the agenda closing. So in terms of feedback from local boards, there was feedback from Devonport Takapuna on a mapping area which has been corrected, and the Chairman's aware of that. And there was feedback from the Chair of Franklin on the Kingsent properties, which I'll talk about a little bit later on. He was raising matters which would be addressed at the time of subdivision in terms of detailed design access. So it wasn't really related to the zoning of the properties. In terms of feedback from iwi, the Manga Authority raised an issue in relation to 2830 Pilkington Road, and these are properties that were in the prior plan change 36. And the issue they raised is being addressed in that plan change 36 decision, which is currently being drafted and being checked at the moment. And I will write to them and just advise them that the issue they've raised was in a previous plan change. Ngāti Manahiri wish to be publicly notified on specific properties, and I've been in contact with them, and that will definitely occur. When we notify the plan change, they'll be specifically notified, along with all other iwi as well. And Waikato Tainui deferred to local iwi on the issues. They said they weren't going to get involved. That was the feedback from iwi. And now, in terms of the issue that's arisen and concerns, I just wonder if Duncan can bring up the map in the overhead. It's the second map I emailed you this morning, the Kingseat properties. So this involves the two properties circled. It's Linwood Road, Kingseat. The properties are owned by Kingseat Village Limited. They're zoned as open space, but they're privately owned. The zoning as open space goes back some years, and I've got Juliet Reynolds, the landowner, in the audience this morning, if there are any sort of background questions the committee has. Recently, Parks advised that this land was no longer required as open space, and they asked us to include it in this open space plan change, and which we did. And you'll see in paragraph 25 of my report is reference to it. That, we actually took the properties out at the last minute, but didn't remove that paragraph. The reason why the properties came out at the last minute was potential infrastructure issues, particularly relating to transport, which were raised by both John and Megan. We've since had discussion or feedback from AT, who have advised that before any rezoning should occur, IAT should be prepared to look at what those infrastructure issues are. And I know Juliet disputes that and says that an ITA was prepared some years ago when the land was rezoned. I'll just ask John or Megan now if they wanted to add anything at this point in time. So those properties were initially in the plan change. They've been pulled out at the last minute, and it's raised an issue. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Tony. John.
Thank you, Chair. Tony's covered the issue well. We have a suggested amendment to the staff recommendations to delegate a decision as to whether to include these two properties in the open space plan change or not to yourself as Chair, the Deputy Chair, and a member of the Independent Māori Statutory Board. We had previously recommended that delegation is given to address any minor amendments to the plan change, but this wouldn't fall into the category of a minor amendment. So some suggested wording has gone to Duncan and Sandra to enable us to work with AT and the landowner to work this issue through. But at this point, our advice would be to not include it until we've got more feedback from Auckland Transport. It's likely to create the potential for another 60 to 80 sections or dwellings, which is potentially additional traffic that needs to be assessed. And there is a significant issue in terms of funding the transport for the existing King Seat development. So we just need to work that through. So that's our suggestion. It is delegated to Chair, Deputy Chair and Member of the IMSB to make a decision on that.
Thank you. Look, that's good, Deputy Mayor. That's good.
Some clarity around it. So it was initially in the structure plan zoned as residential, and then it was decided it might be need for open space, so it was zoned for open space. And now if it goes back to residential, you have to do a refresh of the transport planning work that was done back at the time and modern date it to the current day. Is that, have I got the right sequence here?
We'll just need to clarify that with the landowner and AT, but that sounds correct.
So it's quite a substantial change, Mr. Chair, and I'm wondering if that actually should come back to this committee in a formal sense around that. I'd like to actually see what the Auckland Transport says around that, because this is not the only development that's, you know, in train for King Seat. There's also a lot happening at Clark's Beach, which is on that same sort of branch Linwood Road network. So there's not just one case in point, there's several.
Can I suggest, I'm just weary of having a full report back to the whole of the committee when maybe it could be dealt with by the delegated members, the Chair, Deputy, IMSB member, and maybe you as a Franklin councillor at it as well. Would you be amenable to that?
The other councillors are in agreement, yes, but I just want to make sure we've got thorough practice here, that's all.
Oh, there will be. There will be, without doubt. Can I just get a sense, is there a willingness for the members to add to that, the Franklin Ward councillor? Yep. If we could handle it that way. There are implications here, and we do need to understand those transport impact implications. So we need to get our heads around that. Okay, further questions, Councillor Fletcher. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Well, to a degree, it's been answered, but I just wonder, it would be informative for me, where we have the landowner here, if she be permitted to speak briefly to it.
I don't have any request in the public forum, and we've gone past public forum, and we can't have the public. This is
No, it was not so much in that regard, but just to clarify the points that were made by the Deputy Mayor.
No, I'm sorry, members. I can't set that precedent, and I've had no request, and this has been on the public record. I can't accept a member of the public participating at the item. The place is actually.
No, I respect your ruling on that, but I would just like to be absolutely clear on the background to this and to make sure that there's been good process. But I think your suggestion of it going to the delegated group is the wise one, and I'll look forward to reading what the results are.
Thank you. Councillor Dalton?
It really is just a comment. I support the Deputy Mayor being on the committee, but the context or the content of what he said is accurate. I don't want to hold things up with a report, but this information is what we've been signal to us going forward as an issue. You know, where we're going to plan, the funding that we have for infrastructure, it's important. And so I think that we do need the information. I'm not suggesting we need to be the decision maker on it, but I want to be assured that, as the Deputy Mayor has said, that there's little developments all over the place and they're all cumulative on our infrastructure and where we're going to place our funding. So just an awareness for me that I would like to know. where all of these developments are going. I can see it's not a huge one. I understand the process as we understand it. It was residential, went to open space, going back to residential. So I can imagine the angst of the developer, but we need to be cognizant of the costs to us, what we can do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dalton. Tony and John, I think what I'd like, rather than, you know, a report coming back here, we'll use the delegated few, but we'll also communicate with all the members, mayor, councillors, IMSB members, by memo before the delegated few make their final decision. Okay? Good. Is that a good course, members? Okay. Councillor, or Deputy Mayor, would you like to move?
So do, yes.
Seconded, please, Councillor Dalton. Thank you. Is there anything further to add, Tony, John? Good, we'll progress this then. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. Declare that carried. Thank you, members. We'll go through to